Welcome to the Fortigate Firewall Introduction course. In this course, you will learn the basic functions of Fortigate platform, how to deploy Fortigate in your network topology, and how to troubleshoot common Fortigate issues. Over the years, we have seen a huge rise of computer networks and rapid technological advancement in many areas. It was vital to adopt network security and network segmentation principles to prevent unauthorized access, cyber attacks, and malicious traffic from entering your network, whether these attacks originated from outside your network or even inside. The first thing that comes into my mind when I think about a firewall is routers. Firewalls are essentially routers with special features. I like to call routers the Google Maps of computer networks. And that's because every router has this unique map known as a route table that the router uses to direct network traffic to the appropriate port or interface until they reach their final destination. I may go through one router to access another computer in my local lab, or 8 routers to access a website in a different country. With consumer routers that you often find on Amazon or Best Buy, there is barely any network segmentation implemented on them. All ports on the router, and possibly Wi-Fi too if supported, are grouped into one network. This is also known as a flat network, and it's usually assigned the network 192.168.0.0/24 or 192.168.1.0/24, where every device is able to talk freely to other devices in the network. They are aimed to get home users up and running ASAP with the least amount of manual interaction or manual setup, and they provide a moderate security for home users' internet connection by implementing network address translation NAT, and it also have dynamic IP assignment DHCP enabled by default to help clients start networking out of the box. Business routers, on the other hand, they cannot operate with this model because it provides no segmentation, hence why they usually come with no pre-configuration at all, and they allow you to start from the scratch, configure every router interface as a separate network, use specific networks and sizes, enable DHCP if you want to, and more advanced option as well. Fortigate Firewall adopts Zero Trust Access model, which means all network access through the firewall is blocked by default. This is also known as the deny all policy or implicit deny policy. And you have to configure the firewall otherwise for things to start working. For example, I want my IT team to access all servers in my network to perform server updates, but I don't want my marketing team access to sales team or vice versa. And that's how I want to configure my firewall policy to allow and deny. Many routers already have security features on them. Why need a firewall, you may ask? For example, let's take a look at the OSI model, which describes end-to-end network communication. From layer 2 perspective, this is where we have MAC addresses and network adapters, or NICs. Routers do have security features like MAC address filtering, stickiness, port security, and VLANs. Now, MAC address-based security is limited only in your local network, and VLANs can still talk to each other through the router, which is also known as inter-VLAN routing. Now, from layer 3 and layer 4 perspective, this is where we have IP and communication protocol like TCP, UDP. Routers have packet filtering with access list and extended access list, and also network address translation NAT. Now, router access lists provide basic packet filtering only. However, firewall packet filtering goes beyond router access list and filters. It provides very granular service, IP, or user-based filtering on all network traffic. It can also integrate with your existing directory services, such as Windows Active Directory. And it also provides very detailed logging for all allowed and denied traffic, so you can keep track of what's going on in your network. Next-gen firewalls that we use today go beyond basic packet filtering that just reads a firewall policy and applies it. It includes intelligent tools and services to allow secure access to your network with minimal latency, with additional services like IPsec VPN, client VPN or SSL VPN, intrusion prevention IPS, internet proxy and filters, sandboxing, and much more. In conclusion, next-gen firewalls are able to inspect network traffic from layer 2 all the way to layer 7. Now, expect to hear this a lot. It's a firewall issue. Because firewalls are in the middle of most problems, they are the first to blame for something not working in the network. And there is a continuous battle between app teams, server teams, and firewall teams on who's responsible for problem A or who's responsible for host A can talk to host B, and that leads to one conclusion. Working with firewalls and network security requires patience and the perfect balance between legitimate allowed access and zero trust principles. Same as with routers, some firewalls have specialized integrated circuits called ASICs or application specific integrated circuits that are used to offload resource heavy processing tasks like IPS, encrypting and decrypting traffic that makes traffic flow accelerated and much faster. Example ASICs MP6, MP7, CP9. You can deploy Fortigate firewall almost everywhere. Most commonly used are physical models to protect home networks, local networks, and data centers, and most of them have ASICs. There are also virtual machine series available for most platforms like KVM, VMware, and Hyper-V. And Fortigate VM has a 15-day free trial version for most platforms, and you can use this to test the platform and learn as much as you can up until you hit the trial limits. Now the trial VM limits are as follows. You can only use 1 CPU and 1 gigs of RAM in your VM. You cannot do any firmware updates. And the worst part is they have a very low encryption cipher, which leads to a multitude of issues like not being able to control the user interface or the GUI using HTTPS secure protocol. And that means we are talking about a security device that has a GUI only on HTTP, which is unsecure protocol and can expose admin credentials. And I think the reason they use a low encryption cipher is to prevent people from using it in production environment for the high risk. Similarly, SSL VPN or client VPN uses a very old cipher called SSL v3, which won't work on any modern browser or FortiClient itself. There are also low crypto ciphers in IPsec VPN, but at least they do work. Also, there are on-demand VMs available for securing cloud networks like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. And this version is special because it comes licensed to use all features like IPS, web filtering, firmware updates, technical support, and they are priced per hour, so you only pay for what you use. You can later delete the firewall instance to stop the charges. There is no upfront price, no commitment, and it's very affordable, especially for a short amount of time. Now, when your trial VM expires, you have the option of deploying it again from scratch and start another 15-day clock, buying a VM license, which can be expensive, utilize the cloud VM offering and pay as you go, or you can look at the option of buying a physical device. Just Google Fortigate product metrics, which lists all the physical models and their technical specs. There are overwhelming numbers in this sheet, so I will focus on the info that matter the most. Number of boards and bandwidth. Starting from the lowest model available, Fortigate 40F, you get 5 copper 1 gigabit boards, and the bandwidth or throughput allowed from all 5 interfaces together at the same time is up to 5 gigabit speed. So even if your internet speed is only 15 megabytes, for example, your internal LAN can still perform much faster, especially if you host any streaming services or gaming servers in your network. Now keep in mind that 5 gigabit bandwidth is measured when the firewall is only doing packet filtering with firewall policy alone. As you turn on more firewall features, the bandwidth is less due to the buffer needed for processing the additional features. This is called a performance hit. For example, in the second row, the bandwidth measured for IPsec VPN is 4.4 gigabit, as the firewall needs more time for encrypting and decrypting traffic. It's still very impressive knowing that this test was done using industry standard strong security cipher. The next row shows us huge hit in performance when turning on intrusion prevention or IPS, because IPS has to look deep inside the packet to recognize common software vulnerabilities and known bugs and protect against them. It lowered the bandwidth a lot, but it's totally worth it. In the next row, next-gen firewall or NGFW performance is measured with firewall, IPS, and application control enabled. And finally, threat protection bandwidth has all previous features enabled plus malware protection. It takes some planning to understand the requirement of bandwidth in your network based on number of devices, features you plan to use, and budget. Let's take some examples. If I plan to use IPS and application control and require 1 gigabit total bandwidth, I would choose the Fortigate 80F or higher. If I need support for 10 gigabit cables like Cat7, Ethernet cables, or fiber cables, I would choose the Fortigate 100F or higher because they do have SFP ports. Models like Fortigate 2600F and higher support multiple 100 gigabit ports, and total firewall bandwidths can reach over 1 terabyte per second with Fortigate 7121 model, which is insanely high bandwidth. Now let's change the subject to Fortinet Certification or NSE. Fortinet offers 8 levels of exams and certification starting from NSE 1 till NSE 8. Now NSE level 1 and 2 are easy and free certificates that you can earn by just watching videos and answering short quizzes on them. They are generic to a big extent and don't cover much technical details, but they provide decent knowledge of cybersecurity and network overall. They can be finished in one day each, so make sure to earn them both on Fortinet training website. Comes next, NSE level 3 is only for sales and employees, and that makes NSE level 4 the first real technical exam. It costs around $400. I would only suggest going for the exam if you see a real value from earning the NSE 4 certificates. Price of higher certificates is higher as well. And that's all about certificate, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.